Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 15 of Shankism, the Byzantine Empire. Alrighty, let's get into it. So, as you see on your page, you want to label it the Byzantine Empire. They are known as the Eastern Roman Empire, the Eastern Romans. We're just really talking about the eastern side of the former whole Roman Empire. And I'll show you what I mean here in a second. And you do want to write the time frame down, 330 AD to 1453 C. Okay? So when I refer to the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, I'm referring to what you see here in this pinkish area here. What is the big capital? That would be Constantinople, right? We talked about the city of Constantine, right? Constantine moves it in 330 CE. He moves it from Rome, moves it east towards a much better city, Constantinople, okay? Does that about 146 years before it officially falls. And you see in the west, okay, everything that's not in pink and 476 is non-existent. They're no longer a unified Roman Empire. There's people living there. There's former Romans living there. But they're also mixing in with the barbarians that are in that area too. We'll come back to that, and that's known as the early Middle Ages. We'll come back to that. Okay. All right. So why do we call them the Byzantines? Well, if they're the Eastern Romans, because if you asked a Roman back then, they would say, "Oh yeah, I'm Roman," all the way up into 1453. So almost 570 years ago, they would have said, "Yeah, I'm a Roman. I'm not a Byzantine. What's a Byzantine?" The reason that historians have done this, so Byzantium was a Greek city-state. It's exactly in the same spot. It's just been growing and changing its name over the years. And historians believe, well, since this is so significantly different than the western side of things, and it still lived on, let's not just refer to this as the Roman side, the Eastern Romans. Let's refer to this as the Byzantines. Okay, there was a king, I believe, Byzantine as well, was there, and he named the city, Greek city-state, way back in 600 CE, Byzantium. Okay. So if you see here, and you do want to write this down because this will help you, kind of even how I have it laid out here. Originally, Byzantium. Then Constantine moved the capital from Rome and moved it to that same city, but he didn't want to keep it Byzantium. He wanted to name it for himself. So he named it Constantinople, city of Constantine. He's constantly Christian, a new city for the Christians. Okay. It will be called Istanbul after 1453, and you will understand why here by the end of it. And you do want to write that down. Okay. So why was Constantinople established as the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire? You don't have to write the questions down, but you do need to write down these bullet points here. Well, the reason it's the capital is because it's protection from the eastern frontier. Okay. So it's a good spot on this strait because it's surrounded really on three sides by water, and it definitely has a good way of protecting, as you'll see here soon. It is distant from Germanic invasions in the Western Empire. So why the Western Roman Empire fell? The Western Romans, okay, where the city of Rome is and so forth, is because, not entirely because, but one of the factors is because of the barbarian tribes that were there. They were constantly attacking Rome, constantly invading. A lot of that had to do with the Huns pushing those barbarians down, but nonetheless, they kept coming into Roman territory, and the Romans didn't like that in the West. Okay, it's the crossroads of trade. If you're shipping anything from Asia, you're not going to travel all the way into Europe. You're going to get on the very edge of Europe, okay, where Europe just begins, and Europe just begins in Constantinople. And you can sail across the Black Sea, drop your stuff off, and sail back and go back into, whatever part of Asia you came from. That became the center of trade. Or you could sail through the Mediterranean and go up, through the Aegean and the Sea of Marmara and the Dardanelles and all that stuff, and then get in to the Bosphorus Strait. Okay, easily fortified on a peninsula bordering a natural harbor. Okay, all around those sides, whether it be on the non-water covered side, which is where they put up a lot of the walls, and you put it all the way around. Okay? And not only do you put one wall, you put a 10-foot wall, a 30-foot wall, a 60-foot wall. You put a moat out front. This is going to be why the Byzantine Empire, the Roman Empire, lasts so stinking long. They last 1,000 years, basically, longer than the Western Romans did. Okay? And that's what you see here is what is left of it. Okay, there's a series of walls. Okay, you can go there today. And when I went there to Istanbul, it's called Istanbul today, you're literally driving through some of these walls. Okay, some of them are in better condition than others. Said you can drive right through these walls, no problem. Just zoom on through some because it doesn't need to be fortified like it was back then. And the reason why it needed to be fortified because it basically was a giant vault filled with gold. Okay, all the shipping containers and all the riches from all different lands came there, and it was incredibly wealthy and consistently. Different tribes from all over the place tried to take over the Byzantine city of Constantinople, unsuccessfully until 1453. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's a natural. So if you zoom in, okay, so if you look at it, kind of like this, okay. Should I get the camera straight here? So you have Asia here and Europe here. It's located on the European side, modern day Turkey. In between it is a strait. Well, if you really zoom in into the one side, or on either side, especially the European side, which would be the Constantinople, zoom into this side. You zoom into it, okay? This is what you would see on your paper. This is what you would see on the map there. You see a series of walls. You see all around this peninsula, you see a wall, okay? Even on where the water is, it's right on the water's edge. But what are you going to do with the watered side, I guess? Well, you put up a wall. So what immediately Constantine did, and if you look closely, it says Constantine in 330, he decides to put a series of walls, and each time they keep adding to it. Well, and you see, in addition to that, you see 83 years later, you see that Theodosius II decides to make another wall, because 83 years later, your city is going to expand quite a bit, especially for as fast as it was growing. So they need more area. So if you have more area, you can't leave those people just kind of hanging out outside the castle walls. You kind of need to actually get them inside the walls and protect it. So they added another layer to it. So the walls of Constantinople were immensely famous. Constantine. Now, you should already know him, but let's go over him again. Constantine, the Roman emperor, because he would consider himself Roman. He just moved the capital from Rome to Constantinople. Well, you want to make sure you have this down just to kind of reiterate. He made it the capital city, the capital Christian city in 330 AD, also known as CE. CE is Common Era. You do write this individual down. His name is Theodosius. So he made Christianity the official religion of the Byzantine Empire. So write that down. And why this is interesting is, so before Constantine, you would have been persecuted, executed, treated harshly in so many ways before Constantine made it legal. He made Christianity legal. And so you may have been persecuted before Constantine for being a Christian, accepted amongst all other religions, because it was the freedom of religion. The Edict of Milan was the freedom of religion, to being able to practice your religion. And now under Theodosius, you are now persecuting other people for their beliefs. And it's kind of messed up. Like, you were getting first persecuted because you believed in Christianity. Then everything was legal. Any religion was under Constantine. Then Theodosius says, you know what? Too bad. Only religion here is Christianity. All other religions get rid of. I will persecute you, execute you, imprison you if you have any other religion. So it's the official religion of the Byzantine Empire. There's no official religion of America. Okay, we don't have a state religion. Predominantly, most people here that live in the United States are Christian, but we have freedom of religion. We don't adhere to any one religion under our government. The most important one you're going to learn about, the most important Roman emperor on the eastern side. His name is Justinian. like Justin, only an Inian. Justinian, okay? His reign, meaning when he ruled, when he was in charge, was from 527 to 565 CE, or AD, whichever you prefer. So a decently long time, almost 40 years he was in power. If you want to know when he was born, 482 to 565. Your reign will end when you die. So that's why there's sometimes you might see two dates. You have to also understand when you see two dates, which makes more sense. The longer the date, typically that would be the birth to death, and the shorter the date, that might just mean the reign, like when you were in charge, when you were in control. Justinian. Let's talk about him now. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to write down the codification or codification, however you want to say it, of Roman laws that impact the European legal codes. Once you write that, then I want you to stop, okay? Because you're going to need more space after that, because you kind of see the little arrows kind of pointing around, okay? So Roman law, he makes Roman law essential. And this is how he does it. You want to write down this in addition. Okay, so you have that first little bit, then you want to write this. It's notice the Justinian Code. The first thing he does when he comes kind of into power is he starts what's called the Code. It contains 5,000 Roman laws. So all the Roman laws, you know, obviously they started out with 12 tables and so forth, but Rome was known for its laws and its civility and its ability to govern people and, you know, enact laws to, I'm not say control people, but to keep people in line. He gathered all these Roman laws. So yes, the Rome fell in the West, but he did his best, and a lot of that information was still saved in the Byzantine libraries in Constantinople. The second thing he does is known as the digest. This is all in Justinian's Code, all four of these, right? That what he does is he summarizes and quotes all the opinions of Rome's greatest legal thinkers. So into 50 volumes. So all of those Roman laws, they took out the ones that they needed or they didn't need, and they threw them out, and they kept the ones that they did need. Like today, we have new laws that are, you know, forming each day, but we also have a lot of laws that just we don't need anymore because of technology and because of the way the times change. So you don't need those laws anymore. And think of the digest as him actually digesting the laws. So the Code is him gathering the laws amongst him and scholars, and you know, some of the best thinkers of his time are doing it. It's not just Justinian, but he has it done. He's in charge. He can order people to do it. And he digests all of these volumes of laws. And what's left over are 50 volumes of the best things to help manage people for a long, long time. He took 900 years of Roman laws. That's pretty much how many years he took of all the different laws. It's a lot of laws. No wonder there was over 5,000 Roman laws. Third thing he does is called the Institutes. So it's a textbook that told law students how to use it. Well, first you gathered all the laws. The second thing, you digested those, got rid of the ones you didn't need, and kept the ones you did. Well, now you need to put it into practice. So you designed a textbook so the law students could use those laws. So here's a textbook of these 50 volumes that will help you learn these laws and how to use them. Institute. Institute, as we learned before, institute can be a variety of things, but we know institutions can be schools. Okay. The fourth thing is called the novelle. The novelle is presented legislation past 534 CE. There's going to be legislation, meaning laws that come into effect after. Like there are laws that will be put in place in the next coming year here in America, and then in the next 5 years and 10 years and the next 100 years, there'll be new laws that never existed before because new things appear all the time. So the novelle was, well, anything presented legislation-wise after will be put into this new kind of area, the novelle. That is Justinian's Code. It's his law code on how, and this is huge. The reason this is huge is because Europe, all of Europe, not just the East, but the West, will have this, and this will be the fundamental piece they use throughout much of their history. And as we learn more about, as the countries in Europe actually develop, they haven't gotten to that point, like, you know, Spain and, you know, France and Italy and Britain, they'll use much of Justinian's law code to start their countries. That's why it's used. So it's Justinian's code, not his cheat code, his law code. Now you want to write the reconquest of former Roman territories. Conquering former Roman territories. This is what I mean. Look at this. So in the pink area here, we have what Justinian already owned and controlled. We see Greece on there. We see Asia Minor. We see Egypt. We see the areas of Jerusalem, as we know as Canaan. Okay, and far north in Macedonia and Greece. But they had lost everything. They had lost everything in the West. And Justinian was fascinated by the origins of, he wanted to be like, Augustus. He wanted to be like Trajan or Hadrian or Marcus Aurelius, who had ruled over a vast empire, not this partial nonsense little empire. He wanted to be just like them, the good emperors of Rome's pure history. So he starts sending his best general, Belisarius, however you want to say it, and starts regaining former territory that the Romans once owned years and years later. This is about 50 years since they had owned any of this. So he goes, and Belisarius, his general, and it's painstaking. It's not easy by any means. He's grinding away getting this back. It's not like people are just bowing down. There's still people living there, but they don't want to be ruled by Romans again. Absolutely not, even though it's been 50 years. They don't want to be ruled by anybody. He does manage to conquer back Italy. You see Italy's boot there in red. You see Corsica and Sardinia and Sicily, and you see Carthage there as well, where the Vandals are, and you also see southern Spain, right? That's Justinian conquering it back, so he's known for that. And he's trying to return back to this, and that's about as close as he'll get back to the former Roman territory, and within 50 years, it'll all be gone anyways, okay? But he does try to bring this back. Like I said, General Belisarius, probably the most famous. He is in your book as well. From 533 to 560, he took back northern Africa and Italy for the Byzantine Empire, and other parts of Spain, as you saw as well. So he's going to be an important general here for Justinian, kind of like his, let's say, his primary henchman or his primary right-hand man. Did this all at 25. He starts at 25, but it's a long, painstaking, he doesn't get it done in like 5 years. As you see, it takes him a while. Third thing Justinian is known for is expansion of trade. So trade flourishes under Justinian. It's never been a better time to trade your goods. Because where is Constantinople located? Right at the center of all the trade. If you see on the map there, you see the Black Sea. Then you see, no pun intended, then you see the Mediterranean Sea, and in between that you have the Aegean Sea where Greece is, and you can sail your ship up there and meet there and go anywhere in the Mediterranean. You can get to that point by sailing, and the fastest way to get from point A to point B in that time, they don't have trains, don't have automobiles, don't have planes, boat. Sailing is the fastest way to get there. But you can't see it all on this map, but everyone from Asia, all the way from China, will travel and drop their stuff off and trade with people in Constantinople. People up north where Russia is will come down south and trade with people in Constantinople. You'll see that here very shortly. It's a center for trade. The fourth thing, one of the most important things, if you go to Istanbul today, because it's not called Constantinople, it's called Istanbul, will be the building of the Hagia Sophia. And it's not the Hagia Sophia, it's the Hagia. The G is silent. Sophia. Hagia Sophia. What is the Hagia Sophia? So if you look at it, this is the Hagia Sophia. It is the center for the church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Christian Eastern Orthodox Church, which I'll talk about. The reason it's so insane, the reason why is because look at the dome on this. Domes are not easy to make. And we've been over this with the Pantheon in Rome. This is bigger than that. I've seen this firsthand. It's massive. It's insane. I've been inside. That middle image you see there, been right inside there, looking right at it from that angle. It's beautiful. It's unlike anything you've seen before. And you see in the other two ones, it's located right on the Bosphorus. That little area you go in between, roughly a mile or so in some spots, that's the Bosphorus Strait. Separates two continents, so you could live in Europe and work in Asia, or vice versa. Now let's talk about Justinian's wife, Theodora. Now, Theodora is one of those special individuals who comes from very low beginnings and rises to power very quickly and is really pulling the strings of Justinian. So what you want to write down is obviously Empress Theodora, Justinian's wife, if you don't already know. What you see in black there. She'll urge him to change Byzantine law to give women more rights. So Theodora is an advocate for women's rights because, if especially you ladies out there already know, women are marginalized. They're like thrown under the rug. Like, yeah, you're a woman. Go inside and have some children and cook some dinner and stay out of history. Well, Theodora's not that. Theodora is well known and takes charge. Okay, I say low beginnings because allegedly, not 100% proof on this, she was a prostitute. Okay, and people were super upset at Justinian for marrying Theodora. Okay, but she kept fighting consistently for women's rights, giving them more and more rights, and basically pulling all the strings to keep Justinian in power. So one thing in particular, women could own property equal to the value of their dowry. Women before could not own property. That was just unheard of. Women can't own property. They can't, in their minds, women don't have the know-how to do this back then. It is what men would be thinking then. Dowry, a lot of you probably don't know what a dowry is. And I would write this down just so you know, because you'll see this is something that exists in modern day. Some families throughout the world do this. This is not uncommon, especially in India. This is big in India. Money and goods the wife brings to the husband at marriage. So if you want to marry a husband, like you have a boyfriend, want to make him your husband, and the marriage is set up, well, really the only way this can actually happen is if you have a dowry. So, well, as a woman, how do you get money and goods and things like that to bring into the marriage so that you both have it? And it makes sense. It's not like it's just going to her. It's going to your new family. But you have to have it. You get it from the girl, you get it from your father. Your father gives you whatever that may be. The more he gives you, the more that you have. So, but what if you do that and you're married for a while and then 5 years later your husband dies? Well, you can own that property, but it's only property that you can own is what you brought into it in the start of the marriage. So if you end up having like 100 acres, but you only, let's say, brought in 2 acres worth of gold and goods, well, you're only going to get 2 acres, but at least the 2 acres will be yours. And the other 98 goes off to however they want to split it up. You want to write this down. The hippodrome. The hippodrome was one of their forms of entertainment. Yes, they had some gladiatorial bouts, but they didn't really have a coliseum like Rome did. They were more excited about the hippodrome, which is chariot racing. And this is even before before Justinian and before Constantine. They already had this. You could fit about 100,000 people. It's NASCAR. It's like ancient NASCAR, where you have chariots going round and round and round, and you would cheer for your favorite team. And it might be the blue team, and it literally would be just the blue team, or the red team, or the green team. And you were so passionate, probably maybe even more passionate about than you are about, your NFL teams, the Steelers, or the Ravens, or the Redskins, or the Packers, or whomever. These are diehard fans. Their diehard fans are, I'm all for the purple team. I'm all for the green team. Okay, buddy. Really, this is all that's left of it today. There's not much. A lot of this is ruins. All right, the Nika Rebellion. You do need to write this down. The Nika Rebellion. So Justinian and Theodora are still reigning. Things are going well for a while, but this long campaign to try to retake former Roman territory, nobody really cares about that territory anymore. It's been over 50 years. They're living fine, but now their tax dollars are getting cut into it, and people are getting super upset about that. And then they have a lot of this money building all these new projects that Justinian is doing, because he's trying to glorify. He's trying to make it like the ancient Romans in the past, in the western side. Like I said, the Augustuses of the day. Well, riots will break out because the people were fed up with Justinian and the whole government itself. They were just super upset the way he was doing. He lived in this, obviously his lavish lifestyle, marrying this, prostitute who they knew were pulling lots of strings and pushing a lot of women's rights, which a lot of people didn't like. And riots break out. 30,000 rioters packed in the Hippodrome and demanded change. Justinian was so scared. He was on his way out. He was literally on the dock, like ready to sail away and become nothing. Become no longer the most powerful man, definitely in Europe at the time. Guess who saves him from leaving like a coward? Theodora. Behind every great man is a great woman. And here's a prime example of that. And she convinces him to stay. Stay. I have a plan. Let's work this out. We can do this. We can stay in power, Justinian. We can stay in power. So he stayed. 30,000 were packed into the Hippodrome. They're angry. They're mad. Justinian said, yeah, stay there. We'll talk this out. Just go in there. We'll talk it out. Belisarius and his men slaughtered all the rioters in the Hippodrome. 30,000 people. Like that. Justinian orders this. Whether or not Theodora told him that, I don't really know. But he sends his right-hand man again. Sends the guy that conquered all the former Roman territory. Belisarius, go into the Hippodrome. These unarmed fans, remember they're fans. They're fans of the blues, the greens, and so forth. And they're piled in the Hippodrome. Basically unarmed. And now you have well-trained Roman soldiers, Eastern Roman soldiers, they're Byzantines, and they slaughter them. Imagine 30,000 people in one day. Imagine you packed, a stadium full of 30,000. That's a smaller stadium, maybe in the NFL or so forth. I think most stadiums now can fit about 70,000, but there's some that are around 40, 50,000. Imagine slaughtering all of them in one swoop. That was Belisarius and Justinian. Yeah, it actually worked. He got back in power, and people were like, whoa, I didn't think you'd do that. I don't want that happening to me. They fell back in line. But karma got Justinian, because he'll catch the Black Plague. Okay, and it won't be quite the same after that. The city actually gets this massive plague, kills 10,000 people a day, allegedly. It was killing lots of people. Whether it was 10,000, it's tough to say, but it's killing lots of people every day. This very early version of the Black Plague. The Black Plague won't be around for probably another 800 years, the real Black Plague in Europe, but this is a very similar strand. And Justinian gets it, and he survives, like I said, but he is not the same mentally that he was. He becomes more paranoid, mad, very quick tempered. It's not good. Not good at all. Now, if you look at the map here, okay, this area specifically where Constantinople is, if you go across the Black Sea and you start going towards the blue end up here, it's what we know as Russia. Right? There's a lot of contact between Russia and the Byzantines because they're taking that port city there in Constantinople, and they're sailing north in the Black Sea, or they're migrating by walking or on horseback. They're migrating and finding other passageways to different civilizations because now they're this hotbed. There are people up there in that blue area that I showed you, in that like brownish area. They're called Slavs, and yes, they're basically slaves. Not technically slaves, they're basically slaves. They're not slaves, they're just really, really low on the status. There's two saints that go and bring something to them. So you want to write down Cyril and Methodius went to teach the Slavs the Bible. So they went up there, they wanted to spread Christianity to the non-Christians that were up there. The northerners, they're like Russians. They gave them an alphabet which is known as the Cyrillic. It's the Cyrillic alphabet. You need to write that down for sure. Write that down. So what they did is they were going up there, and instead of just telling them about the Bible, then leaving, then going to the next tribe and telling them, then leaving, they taught them a combination of the Greek alphabet and the Slavic language. So they combined the Slavic language that was there, because they had no written language, these Slavs, and the Greeks. It was easier with the phonetics. Remember, the Greeks borrowed theirs from And I say Greek because on the eastern side, Constantinople, most of the people on that side, they speak Greek. And combined the two and made a new language, about the Cyrillic alphabet. What that looks like, you have Cyril and Methodius here that go up into the blue region and teach the brown region and the blue region and teach a lot of these Slavic people this language that they learn, and then they can spread it and they can teach it to the next generation because they can read and they can write. These Slavs, as you see here, and the language looks something like this. It's similar to, some of it looks like English, but it's essentially what will become Russian, right? That's how Russia gets kind of its language that it has. It's because of Christianity. It's because missionaries were spreading it to the north. Christian Byzantine missionaries. But they'll eventually end. The Byzantine Empire will end. The decline. Many different groups will invade the Byzantine Empire. But in 1453 AD, the Ottoman Turks, they're a Muslim or an Islamic group called the Ottoman Turks, will capture Constantinople and end the Byzantine Empire officially. Then that is a date you do need to know, that the Ottoman Turks end them. They end it with cannons. Interestingly enough, they end it with cannons. Gunpowder now is a thing. Cyril Methodius, the church, the Slavic area. There's more of the fancy Slavs. They're basically kind of like Vikings. They'll mix with the Vikings. We'll talk about them later. And because of this, you want to put that the church moves to Moscow. Moscow is considered the third Rome. The third Rome. The Patriarch moves the capital of the Eastern Orthodox Church eventually to Moscow. So they'll move it kind of eventually out of that area and they'll move it to Moscow. That's how Moscow becomes like this, Christian. That's why Russia is Christian today, predominantly Christian. It's because of Cyril and Methodius. Two saints gave them basically their language and their religion. Miss Shank was so long ago. Oh, well, it matters because you have an entire civilization, one of the biggest countries in the world, most powerful countries in the world. Their language and their religion that they function and live by is because of two people, basically. Both political and religious authority was in Moscow after that, when they moved the capital of the Greek Orthodox Church. Constantinople is still obviously down there. They didn't move it like that. It's just they moved the religious center. Russia is known for a mix of Byzantine architecture. Since they had interacted with Byzantines, they had a lot of mixing in. So they developed a dome known as the onion domes. So that's what you see there in the image there. You see onion dome. That's uniquely Russia. You see something like that, is that like down the street? No, that's in Russia. That's St. Basil's Cathedral. Okay, St. Basil's Cathedral. Cathedrals are like much larger churches. That you definitely do have to know. The onion domes, that's like onions, and St. Basil's Cathedral. If you've ever seen a movie, yeah, that's what it is there. Okay, Justinian. All right, this has been episode 15 of Shankism. Thank you for joining me this evening, and the Byzantine Empire. Until next time.
Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, now Constantinople, been a long time gone. Constantinople, now Turkish delight on a moonlit night. Every gal in Constantinople lives in Istanbul, now Constantinople. So if you've a date in Constantinople, she'll be waiting in Istanbul. Even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. So takes me back to Constantinople. No, you can't go back to Constantinople. Been a long time gone. Constantinople, why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Istanbul. Istanbul. Istanbul, even old New York was once New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way. Istanbul was Constantinople, now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Been a long time gone, Constantinople. Why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Constantinople. No, you can't go back to Constantinople. Been a long time gone. Constantinople. Why did Constantinople get the works? That's nobody's business but the Turks. Istanbul.